Hello and welcome to the Watchmen, a movie podcast of occasionally conflicting opinions with Chris, Connor, and Jack. This week we're going to talk about Pulp Fiction in our second episode, Talking Tarantino. So since this is such an out there kind of movie in terms of like...
no, you didn't explain why it's called Talking Tarantino.
I said because we watched Pulp Fiction.
No, that's not why we named it Talking Tarantino. It's because alliteration.
Alliteration, it's clever. So since this movie is so out there in terms of structure and narrative and everything, we're not gonna stick to our usual like cinematography, editing, and all that. We're not gonna have like a structure to it. We're just kind of gonna throw things out there.
Wait, should we have introduced the thing at the middle and then kind of,
What?
I think we can still go through the normal structure with this, but just like really quickly. So if we go through all that, just like cinematography, 10 out of 10, directing, 10 out of 10, dialogue, 10 out of 10, writing, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. So the movie for next month we're going to be watching is The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yes, it's a PTA movie, Parent Teachers Association.
Hilarious. And it's on Netflix, and it's probably anywhere because it's a kind of a recent but oldish movie, like 2008. So that said, we're going to move into Pulp Fiction. So
you were born in 2008. You're pretty much an adult now, right?
Yes.
Just old.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the directing of this movie, this is Quentin Tarantino's second movie, next to Reservoir Dogs, and I mean,
brilliant.
Yeah.
It was definitely different than Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah,
I mean, he was
in the style of filmmaking.
Like Reservoir Dogs was more like a play. It was more just chronologically.
In the way that I've seen Pulp Fiction, and I haven't seen Reservoir Dogs. It's a pretty big difference.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
In that light, that aspect of it's pretty different.
I appreciated your contribution.
The amount of times I've seen each of the movies, very, very different.
Indeed.
I feel like Quentin Tarantino is one of those directors that you can really see grow with every movie that he does.
Yeah, definitely.
He brings new things to the table in every single one of his movies, and he totally varies them up.
Yeah.
What?
Katanas all the time.
Yeah, Kill Bill.
Brings that in all of them.
Action choreography, which there's none of in this movie.
Yeah, and everything will like change with genre. Like he'll still keep some stuff, but like he'll experiment with different things. Like with Kill Bill is completely different than Pulp Fiction. It's completely different with Reservoir Dogs. Like it's just very interesting to watch him.
But he has like the same cast for all of them, which is so cool.
Same cast,
I think that's the coolest thing. That, like they're all pretty much action movies, and they all have pretty much the same cast, or very similar cast, but they're so different.
Yeah,
but they're the same, but they're different,
but the same.
So, in terms of the writing, because, again, we're just kind of going to touch on everything before we get into, like, kind of analyzing this. The writing, I think it's fair to say that Quentin Tarantino is one of the best writers out there.
Yeah. And I think this is his best, like, written.
Yeah. I mean,
script, so good.
There's, like...
such dialogue.
I think that he understands dialogue in a way that, like, is so human. He knows how to, like... take a conversation and make it as human as possible.
It's so
and
fluid.
to translate his themes.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Like, what he wants to say in that dialogue. I think he does it probably better than any other writer.
And that's what I like, too, is, like you said, like, he's able to get his themes out through dialogue. He's also just such a detailed, like, director and writer as well. Like, you can see it in his shots, but as well as just how his story progresses. As well, and just also little things in either dialogue, monologues, or just anything within the plot. And it's really just cool to watch it.
Yeah. There's so much detail in dialogue. It's so cool to see. It's not just like, here's what I want you to know about the conversation they're having, conversation over. It's
like I've seen this movie 5 times, 6 times now, and I'm still finding little things that I'm missing.
And in terms of like writing itself, this movie must have been a behemoth to write. Like, with the whole narrative structure of it.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, and also just to choose the different, like, the order of subplots.
Yeah, for sure.
Insane. And it works so well. Yeah.
And in terms of like the character arcs that everybody goes through, it's like it's crazy how you have so many characters all going through these arcs, and then in addition to that, you have to mix up the story and put a separate timeline to it.
And there's no weak part too. Like you'd think with all those different subplots and different like stories, characters and complex characters too. Like you would think you would kind of struggle juggling between one and the other.
Nope.
But it's honestly, I can't find any problem with any of them. Like one is not weaker than the other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even like Marcellus Wallace, who we only see for a story or two, is like as much a defined character as Butch.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's like 2 or 3 scenes in the whole movie, really.
Yeah. Well, he has like pretty much the entire, a good majority of the Golden Watch, and because the scene with the Gimp.
Yeah, but
it's
he's
mostly that
behind
scene,
the door
though.
for most of that scene. He doesn't really
Yeah,
do much.
it's
He's
true.
sitting and then he's behind a door. And then
In terms of
there's
character
some lines.
development, he has very little
Yeah, there's
time.
That's another thing that I wanted to touch on is that they the rest of the cast really kind of brings out a lot of character of other people. Like Jules would talk a lot about Marcellus Wallace. So when you saw Marcellus Wallace, you had this basic understanding of what he is. But it's like he didn't explicitly like give character traits and define him.
Yeah.
He just had the "does he look like a bitch" monologue or something like that.
Yeah. And also just like the dialogue between any two characters. Doesn't he look like a bitch? But
the idea of the dialogue being him describing Marcellus Wallace, just standing there like, "Oh yes, have you heard of Marcellus Wallace? He is black
He is bald.
and he has a cut on the back of his neck. He's kind of big.
doesn't look like a bitch.
Doesn't look like a bitch."
But yeah, I think it's ingenious how this movie like flows together so well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I still have no idea how he thought of putting every scene like that in that order. It was just
Right.
for me. That's I think the biggest accomplishment of that movie.
Here's
For
what
sure.
I think. You write the whole story just kind of like regular timeline, and then you organize it so you're focused on one character. Like we talked about the last time we watched it, that you focus on the three characters of Butch, Vince, and Jules.
Yeah, I thought
Tell
that
their
too,
stories.
but it's like it can't have been written that way because each character is given their own kind of like you can see character development from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like it was obviously wrote in that kind of structure of kind of like messed up narrative. Because it's like you get these certain like even you still see Jules die like halfway like little 3/4 through the movie. Vincent die like 3/4 of the way through the movie, but like you still have more to go on his character. And so I feel like if it was written from start to end, you would still they would have written with that in mind.
Yeah, and also I mean Vincent's death is like important as well, like for that not to be the ending, like to see that and then see Vincent's actions, knowing that fact.
Yeah,
that he's going to die, it kind of reflects like what Tarantino wants to sort of
accomplish
and then also get the viewers to admire about Jules and not Vincent.
I would argue that Vincent doesn't really develop much after the first third of the movie. After the part that focuses on him, he's just kind of a secondary character in other people's plots.
If each character is following that whole like Ezekiel 25:17 like plot, like that blueprint, which I think we've discussed that. It's like Jules, Vincent, and then Butch are all following those. It's definitely Vincent is the static character in that. And I mean, that definitely shows something. But yes, I agree with you.
The sheep, per se, that the shepherd is guiding.
Yeah.
Well, the way we were trying to figure it out before was we have a theory that the three characters, Vince, Butch, and Jules, are all shepherds or given the chance to be shepherds or the opportunity to make themselves shepherds,
right? Yeah.
And they each succeed to a different level. Yeah. Like, I think
Vincent has Mia. Yeah, it's like each one has their own weak thing to shepherd. So like Vincent has Mia. Then Butch has. Do we agree? Butch was the French girl, or was it Marcellus?
I thought it was Marcellus.
Yeah, I think
Marcellus is more blatant.
Now. Yeah, and then we have Jules as the suitcase, and like each of them are going on this.
Yeah. We were still undecided on Butch's because it could also be the watch.
Yeah,
or the watch. Was
no, the watch. Yeah, it's complicated, but no, I think the watch would make more sense. But that's again like I've been thinking about this for a year and a half now, and I still haven't gotten it. So
yeah. But it's crazy like the writing in this movie, how it like because the reason I say that is because you probably would have if you structured it in like where it's supposed to be timeline wise, then I feel like you wouldn't get the same effect out of the characters.
Not at all.
So that's why I feel like it was written in mind to be kind of jumbled up.
I still want to see on YouTube. I haven't checked it out yet. The somebody put that movie in order.
Oh really?
Yeah, I believe it's still there. I heard somewhere they may have taken it down, but I'm sure you can find it on the internet. Yeah, It's just Pulp Fiction in chronological order, and that seems like interesting.
I think it's so cool how the ending is.
Movie.
I think it's so cool how the ending is like Butch riding away on the motorcycle because it doesn't seem like an ending.
No,
it doesn't seem like the ending to a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But in the timeline, it is actually the ending.
Yeah, it's like the resolution to his story, but it's not really like it's not the end.
Yeah.
It's definitely not.
But like if you were to structure everything like in terms of like time, that would be the farthest point in the movie, and I think it's cool.
Yeah.
In terms of
Dead's baby.
Dead is dead. Yeah.
Dead.
In terms of characters, I feel like I might have a little bit of a opinion that needs conflicting. I don't think this movie.
Right place.
I don't think this movie has a set theme. I think he has more social commentaries, and it's more of a character study.
See, that's what I like is when I'm thinking about it more and more, it's like the title of it is Pulp Fiction. Mm-hmm. And like when you think of what Pulp Fiction is, like those are books that... should we get the definition out?
Chris copied the definition as soon as we started the movie.
I had to pause it. Pulp is a noun, pronounced pulp.
Thanks, Chris. We weren't sure how it was pronounced.
Soft, moist, shapeless mass of matter, or magazine or book containing lurid subject matter printed on rough, unfinished paper. I think the printed on rough, unfinished paper part is important.
Mm-hmm.
And metaphors for the characters and their stories.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
You said something right when Vincent died. You were like, because he's reading his Pulp Fiction, and I was like,
I didn't say that.
Yeah, you did. You did. You were like, he died because, or no, he can't hear Butch outside making
that's what it
toast
was.
Because he's so engrossed in his Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, because we're trying to figure out why nobody can hear anything when they're in the bathroom, but then at the
it's
same
mainly
time,
just Vincent.
It's mostly just Vincent in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So Vincent is like actually deaf.
Stupid Vincent.
Well, almost always. He's reading or talking to himself, alternatively.
Yeah.
Yeah, but getting back to like the whole, like, the title is Pulp Fiction, and like the whole thing about those kind of books where it was just like either action, sex, violence, or something like that. There was no real meaning to them.
Right.
Like it was just something to read.
Mm-hmm. I feel like he offers so much social commentary, though.
Oh yeah, there's meaning in it, but like as for an overall theme,
I don't see one. I can't dig it out.
Something for entertainment. It's not, it's not a metaphor for society. It's not some great text. It's not some literature that you read for.
Yeah, it's not something you can connect like a lesson to. Like Tarantino's not saying like take this away from that. It's just like he's showing you things.
Don't do heroin.
That too. Yeah.
Don't do coke when that coke is heroin.
Yep. Yeah, always know what drugs you're taking, kids.
Coke, not Pepsi.
Yes.
I feel like the dynamics between the characters are a really strong point of it too. Like in Vincent and Mia, that whole scene, I think it was awesome because it had been like a year or two since I seen this movie, and I realized that Mia is basically kind of testing Vincent. Like the entire thing, there's a lot of like, I feel like there's tension because Vincent knows that if he screws up and says like the wrong thing or does something that could be labeled as inappropriate, then Marcellus Wallace is going to throw him out of a balcony.
Yeah, if he says the wrong thing, next thing you know, he's massaging her feet, and then...
Yeah.
From there, just fall downhill.
Yeah, also that brings up, like, reincorporation in this movie is, like, awesome. With, like, just...
Foreshadowing is crazy,
too. Yeah, foreshadowing, reincorporation, it's just with, like, these little details of, like, dialogue where, like... What I love about the whole Vincent Jules thing is every time they're talking, it's such useless conversation.
Yeah.
Like, it seems useless. Like, it's just like, I don't care about royales with cheese or
pilot
foot
episodes.
Massages or pilot episodes. Yeah. But then it comes back, like the whole foot massage thing where they talk about, it doesn't have meaning, but then, you may not think it does, but it actually does have, like, an intimate value. And then it comes back when, like, Vincent and Mia are talking together, and it may not seem like it's anything, but then they... but then you see that tension.
Yeah.
And then you're
seeing
it is,
I view it as kind of tense because like Vincent knows that he's screwed if he says something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mia knows that he's screwed if he says anything wrong.
Yeah.
So she does something like offer him the milkshake. Or she does something like ask him to do the twist with her. And so I thought it was a really cool kind of dynamic there.
And also just the way she acts, like she's just so like very sexual. Like you see later on when she's actually talking, like in a conversation, like she's like, "Hey, I meant to say thank you for dinner." Like it's just a normal voice. Yeah. But when she's with Vincent, it's such like a low, like sexual, kind of like slow voice. The way she walks, acts, everything. She's just tempting him.
Interesting. What about her joke?
Oh, I tried to think about it and it was too deep for me.
3 deep.
3 deep, 5 me.
There's a mother and the father tomato, and they're walking with the baby tomato, and
the
baby tomato's not walking fast enough, and the father tomato goes back and steps on him and says, "Ketchup."
Because it's also when you smash tomatoes.
Yeah, this catch.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jack.
Wait, I got it. That was it. That's the theme.
Oh, thanks, Jack.
Figured out the movie. I'm sorry.
What? That's the theme.
Yeah.
So I was completely wrong. There's actually themes to this
Can we
movie.
kick Jack off the podcast?
What are you guys talking about?
Hey, Jack.
Hey.
So as Jack mentioned, the foreshadowing is really cool in this movie. Like I had never noticed it before, but the whole "does he look like a bitch" thing is like kind of juxtaposing with the fact that Marcellus Wallace got raped.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's like that kind of sick and like crude humor that like Tarantino's really going for, and it's like the whole thing with the watch. Like he says this really touching story of how this watch is passed down for generations and generations, and how it's like a family heirloom, and it's your birthright. And I shoved it in my ass.
And I love how the kid still like grabs it immediately. Like there's no hesitation in that. Just like, oh, that's the watch. Yeah. But yeah, definitely like so much foreshadowing.
Yeah, I made a note of some other foreshadowing, but I can't find it right now.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
Talking about the watch, though, I think Butch's whole thing is with his pride.
Yeah.
And he's like too proud to throw the match, and at the same time also wants money. And he's kind of too proud to leave Marcellus Wallace behind when he has an easy getaway. But like, what do you think about the watch? I think with all his ancestors passing it down, they kind of swallow their pride to stick a watch up their butt.
Yeah.
To hold on to this, to like hold on to the past and everything. But he never really did that. He never really swallowed his pride at any moment.
Well, I wasn't really looking at Butch in terms of pride. I was looking at his relationships with other characters, because that's mainly what I was doing when I was watching. Yeah. And I saw that like Fabienne, that's her name, right? His girlfriend or whatever. That's kind of his like where he wants to be. I feel like his life with her, settling down and not doing any of this stuff anymore. Yeah. But then because of the watch, he's pulled back into the gangster life, and I thought that was really interesting. Yeah,
I was kind of connecting it with Butch with Jules, how both of them kind of shift after this kind of miracle or just luck.
Yeah. And I got to talk about that.
Yeah, I will. And so it's like Jules had, like, he made this realization that he needed to change after he basically got out of sure death.
Yeah.
Like, just out of luck, but he labels it a miracle, that's interpretation. We'll get to that later. But, and then Butch, it was just luck. It was eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It was just chance. And then Butch just, by luck or by miracle, gets away, he has his life, he has strength, whereas Marcellus is unlucky. And so then Butch, with that realization, has to go back down.
Yeah, because it's like, realistically, he was tied up the same as Marcellus was tied up. How did he
exactly.
get out?
Yeah, it was the only luck.
Yeah.
And then,
just the way the gimp fell when he punched him. I'm sorry. But
that's such a brutal way to kill somebody. It's like punching him and knocking him out, and then he hangs himself.
God. Oh. Way to go, Tarantino. Yeah.
That was unpleasant.
Yes.
I felt like it was cool, that whole thing with the gimp and the police and Zed and the other guy. I felt like it was kind of cool. How it's like, I feel like, I'm not sure if this is what Tarantino is trying to say or anything, but it's like they're gangsters basically, and people are doing things to gangsters that are far worse than gangsters can do. Like essentially torturing them. Well, I mean, gangsters torture too. Yeah. That's interpretation, but it's like there are people like far worse than gangsters out there. I mean, and of course they're like, that's
gangsters are pretty bad.
That's what you describe as, that's your interpretation.
Rape is worse.
Yeah, that's your interpretation of what is worse than another. But like,
this is just a fun fact, but I mean, take what you will out of it. But I was reading somewhere that someone noticed there are almost no police officers in this entire movie. And the only one with a police uniform is Zed. So I just thought that was a really interesting thing that somebody pointed out. And I didn't realize that like so much violence and crime is happening.
Tarantino, the next member of NWA.
So watching this a second time, I'm fairly confident that Zed is in no way a police officer.
What was your first guess? The fact that he drives a motorcycle?
All right. Very easily explained. He's off duty. That's the car he drives to work.
You don't wear your uniform off duty.
He came from the station. Maynard called the station and asked for Zed.
You don't wear your uniform off duty. Do you?
Thanks, fact checker.
He could easily be a police officer, but like, I think that's just like a kinky outfit he wears when he goes to rape people.
Yeah.
Reasonable explanation, Chris.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about the divine intervention and the miracles because
remind me to talk about the suitcase afterwards.
Suitcase, right? So
They all have.
I feel like there's so many elements of magical realism in this movie that it's crazy. There's like the divine intervention with that, and I thought that like the Butch like killing that guy in a boxing match, that's kind of magical real. Like he boxed a guy to the point where he died. Like that doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
Dude, they're just small things that you're like, wait, that can't like really happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it could. Like you could feasibly kill someone.
But it's never like it's not common, and I don't think Butch certainly didn't mean to kill the guy.
No.
But I agree with you, and what I like about it is that Jules comments on when Vincent and Jules are having the argument about divine intervention, where Jules kind of says, you can think whatever you want, but I felt God in that moment. And so it's sort of like there's an interpretation there. Like to somebody else, it may not be a miracle, but to Jules it is.
Yeah.
And so there may be like magical realism in there, but it's whoever is looking at it.
Right. And it's like, how did the gun go off?
Yeah.
How did the gun go off to kill, what's his name? The person that Wolf, the Wolf has to clean up.
Yeah.
The guy.
And things like, how does Vincent just not hear anything? How is Vincent just deaf whenever he goes into the bathroom?
Yeah.
Just little things that you're like, how does that feasibly work? And I'm pretty sure it's not just like a writing mistake. I'm pretty sure it's like supposed to be in the vein of magical realism.
I mean, obviously I agree with you. There are things that are kind of on the edge of belief, but as far as the gun goes off, like I watched very carefully, and it looked like there was at least a little bit of shake in the camera, if not in the car.
Yeah.
So like
he did hit a bump
with his finger on the trigger, a slight bump.
Shot him in the face.
Oh, I shot him in the face.
It was so casual.
And then
that's the thing.
I like it better if like the bathrooms aren't just completely soundproof, and Vincent is just so wrapped up in his Pulp Fiction novel that he's not paying attention to anything else.
Yeah.
I think that carries deeper meaning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought that like in terms of the acting, I thought John Travolta as Vincent was like, it was so good because he needs to be high like all the time.
Gotta stay high all the time.
And you mentioned something where there's like a juxtaposition between Vincent and Butch.
Definitely didn't say that word.
Yeah, well, not.
I know that word, but I didn't.
Well,
say
like
it
was like an
context.
offhand comment about how they're like so different. But you mentioned because it was like Vincent had like a full head of hair, and Bruce.
Because last time we were talking about
bald.
this, we were trying to talk about like the comparisons and differences between the three main characters, and Jules is the only one who truly like fully 100% succeeds. If we're talking about shepherds, he's the only one who completely succeeds at that, and Butch does an okay job, and then Vincent just fails completely and he gets killed for it. So I'm just trying to look for more on this second watch. I was trying to look for more differences between them and.
Yeah, there's because Butch is so all about pride and everything, and Vincent is basically a gun for hire.
Yeah,
and there's
he has a certain amount of loyalty.
It's true, he does,
especially to Marcellus Wallace.
I think like that loyalty though comes from sort of self-preservation.
Yeah, and
like the whole time, like when Mia was almost dead, basically. Yeah. Like he wanted to save her, but then he was like, does Marcellus need to hear about this? Yeah. So it's more he's trying to save his own skin rather than Mia. But yeah. And I thought that the way that Tarantino painted drugs in such a negative light, that's also another social commentary he puts out there. Yeah. Like how awful it is, how vivid the OD scene was. Yeah. Like that's that and like the rape scene are the two things that people really take away from this movie. Or like the blatant abuses of like hard drugs in this movie. And also, like, Tim Roth is, like, basically his social commentary vehicle in this movie. Yeah. In a way, like, at the very beginning when he says his monologue about how easy it is to run banks and how they're all everything's, like, federally insured. Yeah. And how so they don't give a fuck.
They're supposed to give you the money, right? That's close to one of his lines. Yeah. Honey bunny.
Suitcase.
Oh, yeah. What's in the suitcase, guys?
Is it a light bulb?
I mean, yeah, it is. It actually is a light bulb, realistically. Yeah. I thought it was cool how, like, just from an acting standpoint, how I mean, it's just something that I think was cool. How they look at a light bulb.
The reactions.
They managed to bring such a reaction, especially Tim Roth's character.
Yeah.
How he managed to say, like, it's beautiful, and, like, just the reaction that he took out of it. He looked at a light bulb.
Yeah.
He looked at a light bulb in a suitcase.
Yeah, that's what's so cool about just that object. It's like so much is made from that. Like it's just those reactions. It drives the plot completely.
Yeah.
It's just really interesting. And then you have some theories about it
How
that
it's
I'll
like
just
his
put
soul.
out. Yeah, it's either his soul, which I think that connects well. I like it, and I choose to believe that
the whole
one.
pious kind of thing that they're going for.
Exactly. But then there's also people think it's the diamonds from Reservoir Dogs.
That would be awesome.
Elvis's gold jacket. And then God, I forgot the other one. I can't remember, but there's a whole bunch of ones.
Yeah.
And I like thinking about those. But in actuality, Quentin Tarantino did an interview, and he said that he just decided not to make it anything. Like, it was literally just a plot device.
Yeah, an interpretation.
And, so really there is just a light bulb in that suitcase.
It's everything you want it to be, but it's nothing at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's so cool how he wrote it with that in mind.
Exactly.
Like, it's like, you don't know what it is, but Tim Roth thinks it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And
I believe Tim Roth.
And what does Vincent say when he opens it? He doesn't. He's
just speechless.
Yeah.
And it's cool that, like, also you think about, since there's no object or need for an explanation for that object, it makes you focus more on reactions or ways that the story or people react to that object. And
because
it's very
we can discuss all we want what it actually is, but
a lot of, like, the thing about the whole soul thing is that the combination is 666. Marcellus Walker has Marcellus has the bandage in the back of his neck, which is often tied to like the soul thing and spirituality and everything.
Yeah.
But knowing that the Band-Aid was a complete fluke and he accidentally cut himself shaving his head.
Does he say that?
It was reported that's why he had a Band-Aid.
Huh.
Yeah,
that's
in real
what
life.
it is.
The
actor,
really?
Yeah, the actor cut his head shaving. Yeah.
Huh.
So, I like to think that, well, one theory could be that I'm starting to like more and more as we talk about this is that everything is nothing. Everybody's just digging deep and deep into this, and it's really just nothing at all. It's
which
empty,
would go to Pulp Fiction.
Which goes exactly to Pulp Fiction, and like, I also like the idea that the combination isn't 666; it's like 665 or something, because he doesn't open it while the camera's still on the combination.
Yeah,
and it's not fully 666; it's 66 and like 6.5.
Yeah, definitely. Just there are so many things that will make a reader, or not a reader, a viewer just kind of assume certain things. Or just take away what they think it is, which I like that. I like that everybody else has their own interpretation. It makes watching and talking about the movie more fun. Nobody cares, Chris.
Yeah, well, then this podcast wouldn't exist, Chris.
Thing.
Yeah, there.
All the people.
But do you think there's a theme, Chris? Do you think? I mean, you're saying that there is no theme.
Trying to analyze this whole thing, you can get very close and you feel like you're on the right track, and a lot of things line up a lot, but like it's very difficult to connect any one theme. You just kind of get glimpses of things that fit together well.
Yeah. The only thing you can really actually take from this movie is the social commentary.
I think the only other thing is that the fact that Jules is rewarded at the end of this is sort of, it makes you think that Tarantino wants you to kind of act that way. He's trying to put Jules on a pedestal and just kind of say, admire this action, these beliefs, and all that stuff, as well as social commentary, which I think is throughout the whole movie. But to put the theme into words is it's very difficult, because as you said, you can get very close. I've gotten very close.
There's so much.
Exactly, and that's the thing with Tarantino and his details. It's just you need to spend so much time examining everything, and it's so fun. I just need to say,
as far as like analyzing texts in literature and movies and things like that. There's the general rule of if it doesn't contribute to plot, it must contribute to theme.
Yeah.
But there's so much that's just like, it's meaningless conversation because it's detailed.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's hard to decipher what's just meaningless detail just to make it more realistic and what actually matters.
Right.
Yeah.
And with that, it's been 30 minutes.
Snap.
Just zoom through that.
I told you, we went for 3 hours on this last time.
Yeah.
And I've only seen it once.
Can the next 4 episodes just be Pulp Fiction continued?
Because, I mean, we leave it up to the audience to interpret. Because it's like, we've just barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
And this movie is just so
much
full.
We didn't talk about.
Exactly.
Yeah. But got to cut it off.
Aww.
So thank you very much for listening and watching The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson next
PTA.
Parent Teacher Association. Yeah.
Your parents.
And it's it's on Netflix, and you can probably find it streaming in a bunch of other places.
Yeah.
So again, thank you very much for listening, and you can check out the Suburbanites podcast every Sunday. And yeah, I'm Connor.
Twitter and
What?
the Facebook.
And the Twitter and the Facebook. Yeah,
and
I put that in the
SoundCloud
description.
And the iTunes.
I put that in the
Tinder and the
We're on Tinder?
MySpace.
I swipe right.
So I'm Connor.
I'm Jack.
I'm also Jack.
Thanks for
What?
listening.